prison was prison. But I mean, if you want to talk about prison, it's like.
I definitely want to talk about prison. Yeah, it's really more of a matter of do you want to talk? Like, if you want to, it's cool.
Oh no, it's cool with me. It's just like, how do I get into that? Like, man, prison is almost. It's not as bad as you might think, but all at the same time, it's worse.
We in. That's how it starts.
Oh, that's how we.
What's up, everybody?
I'm really excited.
Welcome to a kind of impromptu, surprise, exciting guest episode with our friend Tyler Gundersen.
It's me.
What's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for welcoming me.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle, like you kind of like knew Tyler a little bit, right? Like loosely.
So I'm like infamous for not knowing anybody from high school. I don't remember anybody.
Yeah. We obviously were super close because we were fucking wrestling partners.
Yeah.
For like,
well, like you
all of
probably
senior year, like in. Were you there? Were you at Jensen junior year?
I came in October of my junior year.
Right.
I remember I was like walking to the wrestling room, like, okay, I'm gonna start wrestling now.
Right.
Like you probably knew my brothers better than me from wrestling.
Who's your brothers?
Ian. I mean,
yeah,
Ian
yeah.
at least.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And Jack Lusk, he's over here in LA. He wrestled for like his freshman year, I think, but he went to Jensen too.
Oh right. Yeah. I remember him. Yeah. Oh my God, I haven't thought about him.
That's
in a
whose
fucking long
house
time.
I was just at.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we fucking, I mean, fucking like every day after school we're fucking like going at each other for like an hour and a half.
I don't know how the fuck we did that, because like I feel like I could train now.
Yeah.
And I can never train as hard as I did when I was in high school. I just don't bounce back as quick. I'm gonna get hurt.
Right.
Like if I train that hard, I'm gonna get hurt. And then like back then I'd get hurt, but just baby it a little bit and go back the next day is fine.
Yeah.
Now it's like I feel that for like weeks.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
you could
It's like
destroy
I think that's
yourself.
just part of being a kid, like being really young. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, like there's a certain kind of resilience. Fucking yeah. So one of the reasons I was really fucking excited when you hit me up on Facebook and I realized that you were in LA.
Yeah.
Was like I'm excited about your fucking journey. You've been through a fucking lot
Yeah, it's
since the
already
last
been-
time that I've seen you.
Oh yeah.
So
for
like
sure.
we were just talking about like the last time that I probably saw you, like we were at a jiu-jitsu gym and like I remember rolling with you at fucking American Top Team for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I off and on went there for like maybe a couple months, and that was like a little bit after high school, and I think I was waiting to go into the Navy. I don't think I've seen you since I've been in the Navy.
What's that, like
Yeah.
2012?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been like 19. It's like
Yeah.
that's crazy.
6-7 years. It's been-
Okay,
7
years.
Yeah, I think it's about 7 years since I've seen you last.
I was in Orlando when I was 20 and 21, and then I moved back.
So let's refresh a bit. So you, right when you got out of high school, what was your plan with life? Like, what were you doing? So you fought for a little bit, right? You were doing a lot of training?
Oh yeah. Well, I pretty much got into fighting like right after high school, and I was on the fence about going to college, and I got into UF, and I got into FSU, and I got into UCF, but I didn't. And I was like, okay, I don't want to go. Especially I couldn't line up the finances really well.
Right.
Especially because I've been like living out of my house since I was 16. I moved to my aunt's, remember?
Right.
And then I was living at Will's, so it's like it was hard to set that up. And I was like, well, I didn't really want to go anyways, so I stuck with fighting.
Yeah, and
That's MMA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which like you obviously like had fucking proficiency with because of wrestling, So like it was a very easy thing. Like even when I was getting out of high school, I was like, oh, like why wouldn't I fucking go into MMA? That must fucking have sucked too, because like UF isn't fucking easy to get into. I didn't get into.
No, it's
UF.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long were you doing that? How long were you doing MMA?
I never stopped besides
Yeah.
the little break I had. But yeah, I've been doing it ever since, and now I've been trying to figure out where I want to be and where I want to train, and
That's cool.
before I really like go into my pro career, because I was 14 and 3 years an amateur.
Oh,
nice.
nice.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
so
Yeah.
I was doing it for some years, so it's like
Right.
And then I went to prison, and it kind of put a hold on everything.
Did you know that?
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was 23 years old, I went to prison.
We're definitely going to get into that. We're definitely going to. So you're 14 and 3 as an amateur,
Yes.
right? So you haven't had any professional bouts yet?
Nope.
No?
What's the amateur circuit like?
The amateur circuit has changed a lot even over the past, like, since I started. But as far as I know, like, Florida and California are, like, one of the bigger states in MMA in general, but especially in amateur MMA. And I don't know. Now, like, I used to think of it as, like, this big thing and, like, you know, it's so important, like the amateur circuit at least. And it's like, now I can go to amateur fights. I'm like, man, I could go fight any one of these dudes. Like, like it seems like so bum kind of most of the time. But it's like, you know, you get some events that, you know, they put on really good shows. They're really professional looking. And, like, it's really supposed to prepare the fighters for a professional career and give them experience and give them, like, make them experience the mindset of going into a fight and having people watch you and, you know, showing your skills. Whereas, like, so, but a lot of these events are just like for the what's the word, like the spectacle of the sport. Like, you just, like, they put on, you know, the big macho guy against this other guy, and it's ridiculous sometimes. But, you know.
So is there, like, a part of it that's almost like professional wrestling that's like kind of like it's just theatrics almost?
Yeah, well, even amateur in general, like, a lot of people have an issue with amateur fighting because a lot of it's about money making, because you're not paying the fighters. So fighters are fighting for free,
Right.
and, you know, risking their, you know, their livelihood and their
health and safety,
and their safety, and they don't make any money off of it. So most of the money just goes to promoters, and they charge people, you know, the same amount, like 20,
That's crazy.
35, 40, you know,
just to come watch these dudes fight.
Watch the fights.
That's insane. Then you don't get to see any of it as a fighter. That's crazy.
Yep. So and they hide it behind, oh, this is good cred for you as you can.
Yeah, this will give you your chance to go pro. What's the jump from being an amateur fighter to being a pro? Like, how do you make that leap?
I used to think that I think you need 5 amateur fights, but I'm not sure about that. But,
so I mean, you have that, though.
You can literally just go do it, like, if you want, like, but you can tell the difference between the people who are ready to go pro and who aren't. And, like, I've been ready for a while, and I have enough friends that are in the pro circuit right now that I'm just like, well, now I'm just figuring out where I want to start.
Yeah, like you could
where
do
I want to commit to. Yeah.
Now, for, like, from what I remember, like, just being around, like, that environment, like, I remember it being like a kind of, I don't know, like, it's almost like you gain a lot of respect when you start having amateur fights. Because it's like a lot of those people that you're meeting that have had pro fights before, have had those amateur bouts before. And it's almost like they kind of, like, if you go in and you're like, oh yeah, I want to fight pro, like, they're kind of like, you're going to have to put the work in first. Yeah. And like it's just this necessary stepping stone.
Yeah. It's definitely something that's like, almost like a prerequisite, like, kind of requirement to go get the experience nowadays. Like, because people, they're used to, like, maybe 10 years ago, you know, you could be college level wrestler and not really have any experience and go pro and probably do decently.
Yeah, just because you know how to wrestle. Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, almost everyone knows how to wrestle, like, at least a little bit.
Well,
unless you're fighting in other countries.
Yeah, like modern UFC fighters are pretty much good at like, they can dabble in every style of fighting. Yeah. You need to be way more well balanced now.
I mean, especially in the UFC, it's just like you used to see style against style, or like somebody that had, like, more of this style than that. But it's like now it's like people have their own styles. Like, people know enough of everything to where it's like they have their own craft, which is like, that's something I focus on. I focus more on concept than this technique or that technique or this style or that style. It's more like finding, like, my own flow and, like, put movement before everything.
That's interesting.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like, so like when you say concept and flow and movement.
So, like, for me, like that, like, you think about technique, and you can learn straight Muay Thai technique and their own stance and stuff.
Right.
But you got to realize, like, your body has its own natural movement. And I guess this is more of connecting, like, to a primal self. And say, like, you learn technique and you master certain techniques, and then you learn from another thing. Like, if I learn, like, kickboxing, then I learn Muay Thai, then I learn some karate, and then my body knows those different techniques. I can, hold those different forms. But when I start mixing them together, it becomes my own form. And so I'll say, like, okay, what's the most efficient thing I can do for my body? And, like, a lot of things have pros and cons. So it's like you think of, like, a karate stance as the person standing, like, really sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But
Lyoto Machida style.
But, that's really susceptible to low kicks. And you get more power, but you get less, like, hand speed and stuff like that because you have to do full rotation with your body. Whereas, like, you look at a boxing stance, most of the time it's a little more squared up.
Mm-hmm.
But, you don't have as much, forward to back room or forward and backward movement. And the weight's a lot more, like, hard, like, centered in one spot.
Right.
So I guess just figuring out what is, like, authentic to you. Like, for me, like, when I go out and move and, like, it's almost like dancing. Like, I go out there and I move. And, like, there's a push and a pull, like, with an opponent. And, like, I don't know. It's, like, I don't like to think about doing certain techniques. Like, I've gotten to a point where it's, like, I train so much that I don't necessarily have to stick to the rules all the time.
And you can, like, sort of rely on that, like, that you've already done the hard work as far as that technique. Yeah. Like, that can come just, like, completely naturally. And sometimes, like, if you're overthinking that technique, like, you'll fuck it up more than if you're just like,
well, it's
okay,
like
I'm gonna
in
rely.
any sport, you want to get to the point where you don't have to think, you can just do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And fucking that was kind of interesting what you said about how, like, the mixture of forms, especially, like, with MMA and something that, like, its roots were very much like style versus style.
Yeah.
Like, for those that don't know the history of MMA or UFC or anything like that, like, I mean, it was basically just like an avenue for the Gracies to show that, like, jiu-jitsu was
dope.
That was was dope, right? And it could beat other styles. So, like, you would have a boxer versus
probably just really good to learn some jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to fucking get my girlfriend to do some jiu-jitsu because I just think it would be awesome. I think it would be awesome for her confidence, and I think it would be, I don't know. I would recommend fucking anybody to pick up something like jiu-jitsu or even wrestling, like if you're wrestling as a kid.
Well, I think, like, grappling in general, like, it can help people grow a lot, like, not just, like, in self-defense and techniques and all that stuff, but, like, also as a person and getting used to, like, physical interaction with people and being able to stay composed during that.
Oh,
period.
Yeah.
Especially, like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people confuse, like, physical interaction and touch with, like, sexual touch when it doesn't have to be at all.
Yeah, everybody thinks that wrestlers are gay.
Yeah.
It's not always wrong, though.
Not always wrong.
Part of it's the singlet. Part of it's the singlet for high schoolers. They like to make fun of the singlet.
Yeah.
Part of it's like 20 dudes laying on each other on that.
Like, fucking our buddy Max Piasecki fucking always used to say, like, yeah, you got to be a little bit gay to wrestle, though, right? Like, he would say that to everybody.
He's a state champ, so
he would look around and be like, you gotta have to be a little bit gay for this, right? Yeah, but I thought that was really interesting as far as, like, you talking about concepts and movement and being able to hack into, like, that part of yourself that, like, is sort of like existing outside of technique and being able to blend them together. Like, I remember listening to this. I mean, they were talking about music, obviously, because they're rappers. But when J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar, I watched this video of them talking to each other about basically just, like, the process of getting better at their art form.
Yeah.
And they were both talking about how basically, like, the first steps of, like, learning how to rap was basically just emulating other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's
well,
just
you
mimicry.
listen to, like, old J. Cole, and it sounds like somebody else.
It sounds like Eminem.
Yeah.
Like, if you go back and, like, listen to The Storm, which was, like, one of the first rap songs that he wrote when he was, like, 16 or whatever, he sounds like a mixture of Eminem and Nas.
Yeah, and then, like
Old
voice
Childish
Gambino sounds like Lil Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really weird.
And J. Cole was basically just talking about how when he was talking with Kendrick, like, basically, like, your emulation of different people, like, and the different, your taste, right? And like the different tastes that you have, when they combine together, that you create your own style.
Exactly.
And I felt like that was kind of similar, like, to what you just said.
Almost the exact same thing. 'Cause I remember when I first started, like, I used to watch different fighters, and, like, they're one that might be really good at boxing, and he might do a certain movement that I want to learn, and I'll learn that movement and see if I want to add it into my own game. and becomes part of my own movement. Whereas like, it's like back then I was trying to emulate a lot more. I'd switch up a lot. I'd switch up from fighting like this person to like this person. Then like I said, now it's just me and developing my own style and seeing what works best. Because like, if you're a master emulator, then you're not creating anything.
Right.
And there's a lot of different kind of fighters. There's fighters that fight, because of the animal side of it, which is part of me. But like, mainly I'm an artist, so I fight out of artistry and being completely authentic and be able to express myself on the mat fully. Like, it puts me in a position to be like fully present. That way, I don't know. It's a state of mind, like a state of consciousness, where it's like I feel like the present is almost like eternal in that moment. Like, that's all that really exists.
That's
and
dope.
like, there's only like certain things that can really put me in that position. Whereas like a lot of people experience in life and death situations. A lot of people, for me, like, that's like fighting. Like, I put myself in that position. And like, something I tell, like, a lot of people will say, like, and when they fight, like, they'll say, oh, I'm willing to die. And like, sure, I'm willing to die, but what's more important than willing to die is like being willing to kill.
Right.
And like putting yourself in that kind of mind state where you're completely like down to your primal self. And it's, it's a level of consent too, because I wouldn't want to fight anybody that doesn't want to fight me.
Exactly.
Because of that reason, because that is holy.
It's dangerous sport,
it's,
man.
It's sacred ground for me. It's a holy ground. So I'm putting myself in that position. So I don't want to be in a fight with somebody else that doesn't want to be in that position.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that a lot of people, when they like label MMA as like human cockfighting, I don't think they recognize that like that consensuality
and the level
right?
of discipline involved.
The level of discipline, the amount of just like psychological just warfare that you have within your own self.
Yeah.
I mean, like a lot of times when you're talking about like the battle of wits and shit like that, most people think of like Conor McGregor being able to shit talk.
Yeah.
Which like obviously is like a huge part, at least with that area of the UFC and that promotion, right? But being able to, like you said, like being able to kill, right? Like having the right mentality to walk into a fight and be able to do damage and to hurt someone.
There's a big difference between the high school bully who talks about beating kids up and someone who literally goes into a ring with another trained individual with the same mindset to come back after. Like, there's a huge gap between those types of people.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a different level of competition, because like I said, it's like, it's almost not competition. It's almost like a modern day gladiator.
It's like survival almost.
And I had to put myself in that mindset, not to, end somebody or to like do something like that, but is to connect myself more with my primal self, so I can act like that, like without having to think about what I have
Pure
to do.
instinct.
Like,
Exactly.
I'm acting completely out of instinct, like connected to my complete primal self. So, I mean,
that was one thing that like I had a huge problem with wrestling, and with like a lot of like competitive sports and shit. Like I always felt like when I got too nervous, like whenever like there was a match or something that I was looking forward to and I was like, oh shit, this is now happening, and they blow that whistle and then we fucking start going around each other and shit. Like I would always be like way too aware of, I was thinking more about like, oh, it's happening right now, instead of actually just wrestling.
I had the same issue.
And like I would catch myself in like this weird dreamlike state where like I felt like my moments weren't connecting to each other.
And you're watching it take place, and you're like, but you're not reacting the way you can react.
Exactly.
Like, what the fuck's happening to me?
And there's like a bunch of factors to it. Like I always like I was just like, oh, I'm nervous. And I think that that was a huge part of it as well. Like I don't think that I was mentally prepared for that kind of competition. But it's a weird thing when you start getting into like those like high levels of competition where you're like having fucking physical combat with someone.
Expectation too, because like even in my early fights, like I had a level of expectation, and like my mind state on fighting, and like I said, relating to that to wrestling too, like only happened probably when I was 21 years old. I had a change of mind where it's like I didn't care so much about winning or desiring, like, had this huge ambition to be anything. Like cause I used to have these super extremely high expectations to myself, and when I was 21, let's see, when I was 21, when I was 22, 23. When I was 22, I broke up with my fiance, and I was living down in Stewart, and that's when I started thinking about like this journey while traveling and stuff, and wanting to and I fell into this like idea of like self-love and getting away from like giving a shit so much. And it's like, but I found with fighting, I actually found a level of surrender with that, and I actually got better at fighting, like a lot better, like
right.
almost like that, like it was a switch. Like I just didn't give a shit. I went out there and had fun, and like, but it was not just having fun with the sport, it's me having fun with an animal nature in me, that letting go, like surrendering to myself. That's what it really is.
Yeah, fucking hacking into that lizard state, dude. Just being a gorilla. Fucking I fucking that's super fucking interesting. So you would say that would you say that like you're sort of still you're in that, like that you said it was a switch.
Well,
do you think that it's like a process or you've just learned that now?
You need a balance. So it's like I could just go have fun and do that shit, but like it's boring if you're not trying to do anything. I kind of need to make goals, even like in the end it is just for fun. Like I know I'm completely capable, and like I have the ability, and like I have enough people tell me you have the ability. So it's like when I first went to jail, I kind of regained a desire, and then it's like a matter of like being able to want everything and like simultaneously being able to surrender everything. So I have like these big ideas of success and ambition and like things I want to do, but at the same time in the end I realize it's all just play, but it's a very, very serious play. That's what fighting is to me, a very serious play.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So. That fucking, what is that like Bruce Lee quote where he's like he's like, you have to think without thinking. Yeah, he basically says like a bunch of like contradictions, like, but like that, like the state that you exist in when you're fighting is basically just like it's very contradictory. Like you have to be able to think without thinking. I forgot what the exact quote was, but it was a good quote.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
All right, so let's get into. You've mentioned prison a couple times.
Yeah.
What happened? I know what happened. You've told me about this because we've been like off and on like communicating over Facebook and shit like that for a while. But
so like, I don't know, being around the UCF area and then
in Orlando.
Yeah, and then moving.
We lived there.
Yeah, I remember. And it was like, there's a lot of drinking going on.
Oh yeah. A lot of partying.
Yeah, a lot of partying, and like I think back now, I'm like, man, like it's kind of like reassuring to know like how much I've grown as a person, and like being back there, I'm like, wow, these are a bunch of children.
Right.
I'm surrounded like 20, 21 years old, but
I'm feeling like that now, dude. I go to Santa Monica College, and like we were just talking about this the other day about how much like I still feel like I'm like 19 or 20 years old until I meet like a 19 or 20 year old person. I'm like, oh, you're a baby. You're a little baby person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Anyways, that just became a regular thing for me, and it's like I kind of like knew I was getting like falling behind in training and stuff like that, and getting too involved with like having fun. So I ended up moving back to Stewart. And I started doing really good again in training. Then, I got a girlfriend and got engaged after a while, and things got super serious. And, had my own place down there. And then, a lot of bad things like happened all at once, like within a year. Like my mom died, my dog died, and then like I broke up with my fiance. And then, I would like to say that wouldn't have things to do with that. But like 6 months later, I went to prison, and so it's like it's hard to like ignore. But
that you were in like a really fucked up place.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore that I was like in a bad place, and like it wasn't like just coincidence. So like I'm completely like, let's say I don't think I deserved to go to prison for what I did, but I'm entirely aware of the consequences of my actions. And like a lot of people will want to say like when bad things happen, they're like, oh, it happens for a reason. They're saying that just to cope. But it's like, I literally do not regret a single thing. Like, I would not take back the experience of going to prison if I could.
Right.
Like, I would keep exactly as it was.
Just because what you feel like you learned from it and everything?
Oh,
and
yeah.
How
The
you
way
grew
I've
from
grown,
it?
like, I am a completely different person than the person I was before. And like, hell, even now, like, I'm still integrating. I haven't been out for a year yet, even.
Right.
So it's like, but okay, why I went to prison. I really, on Cinco de Mayo 2016, I, got blackout drunk, and it was a Cinco de Mayo, and then I stopped remembering around 10 o'clock at night, and by the police report, I went on someone's yacht down by Sailor's Return.
Right.
And it's like a 200-foot yacht. It's a big boat.
Yeah.
And by the police report, they walked in me sitting in their kitchen table. I don't remember any of this. Sitting at their kitchen table, eating pizza and drinking from a bottle of vodka.
Okay.
And I was just sitting there. And they said I didn't steal anything, but they freak out there. And then I freak out, and I try leaving. The guy tried to stop me from leaving.
Oh.
And so I push him out of my way at the doorway. They don't get injured or anything like that.
Right.
But that push is a battery.
Yeah.
Right.
And then,
plus, what is it called? You're on someone else's property. That's
Yes.
whatever. The
Trespassing.
First there's the trespassing.
Yeah.
So I leave. A couple hours later, cops pick me up off the street, completely incoherent, stumbling around.
Uh-huh.
I went away peacefully, whatever. Next day I had the charges, trespassing, misdemeanor, battery. And because I was trespassing on someone's yacht, which is considered their dwelling, it's a burglary.
Right.
Committing a crime while trespassing someone's dwelling is
a burglary.
And because it was a battery, it was a first-degree burglary, which is the same as me walking in there with a gun and having a home invasion.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's the same charge. Same charge, me walking in with a gun and holding them hostage in their own house.
That's wild.
So
just because you
Martin County.
were like, move.
Yeah. But yeah, Martin County. Anyways, but I ended up going to county jail for 6 months, and then I bonded out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was free for 5 months, and at this whole time I'd paid $8,000 for a lawyer. So I've been fighting it this whole time. My first offer was 20 years.
What?
28 years?
20 years.
20 years?
Yeah.
Jeez.
That was my first offer. And then I got a public defender first, and then he got down to like, okay, you're probably going to do 5. That's what he told me. Like, you're probably going to do 5. Like, I'm sorry, but you're probably going to do 5. And that was 5 in and 5 out. So 5 in prison, and then 5 years on parole
house arrest
or whatever.
Oh, parole. Okay.
And then I was like, thank you, goodbye. I'm gonna hire a lawyer now. Thank God I had money because I was getting ready to move to Sacramento at the time.
Uh-huh.
That was like the whole plan. And then, I had some money. I paid $8,000 for a lawyer, and then put the money in my bank. And then I ended up. So for those 5 months, I was out on bond. I didn't have to be, but I was essentially homeless. Like I was in like the state of limbo.
Yeah.
Where it's like I couldn't okay, I'm not gonna put money on a lease because I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Or I can't really leave the area because I'm on bond. You know what I mean? So I was living at the gym, like right by Canner and 95, and it wasn't that bad. I took care of myself. I had a job still. I went back to Bonefish, and I was working there and did that for 5 months. And I found a job stocking drywall and making good money doing that. And then came around, I guess, April, May again, so about a full year later, and I ended up going back in and getting sentenced to 2.5 years, 30 months.
Jeez.
So like they're stuck on 5 years the whole time too, and then like a couple weeks before before trial, they were like, all right, 3 years, and then I was like, no, and then like the week before trial, they're like 2.5 years, take it or leave it. And my attorney was like, we could probably beat the case if we take it to trial if the people don't show up, because they didn't take any other evidence. They didn't take handprints or nothing at the place.
Really?
And it's like, but he's like, if they show up here and they have a sob story and they want you to go to prison, they're gonna hit you with.
So it was risky.
Yeah, it was really risky. So I was like, whatever, let's send it.
Yeah.
For 2.5 years.
Wow.
And like me, I don't know. I don't know how many times when I was in jail, I've been told, you don't look like you belong here. I'm like, yeah, I
know. Yeah, dude, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And like that happens all the fucking time
yeah.
too, because like people are just like, they'll plead guilty.
Yeah, they'll just take
because
the low sentence.
Yeah, they'll take the low
because
sentence.
they're afraid of being
Imagine
found guilty and getting the higher sentence.
Yeah.
I had the money. If I didn't have the money,
you would have been stuck with that public defender.
That would have been my life. Like,
yeah.
I would have been probably stuck in the system for a long enough time where like probably really screw with my head and like me financially. And like even with this, I got out when I was 25 years old, last December. And I mean, prison was prison. But I mean, if you want to talk about prison, it's like,
I definitely want to talk about prison.
Yeah, it's really more a matter of, do you want to talk? Like, if you want to, it's cool.
Oh, no, it's cool with me. It's just like, how do I get into that? Like, man, prison is it's not as bad as you might think, but all at the same time, it's worse.
It's weird how you hear that sometimes, because like I think a lot of times people, it's so like structured, that sometimes people need that in a way.
It's made for people to fail. It should be structured, but like the funding is so low. It's like they just do the shit to get people through, and like honestly, it's just a big cash cow. Like people are just cows pretty much, and because it's money for the state, but a lot of the institutions are private institutions, so they get money for every bed they keep filling.
Yeah, that shouldn't exist.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's super fucked up.
And then you got to think about how like the commissary, there's a lot of things that are private, that have private organizations behind them, and those private like there's certain people that have stocks in those organizations and stuff like that. But I mean, it's really corrupt, and like I would, like there's part of me that really wanted to get into like prison reform and like more into that kind of thing, or like prevent people going to prison and stuff like that. But
it's like considered a bad thing. Like that's like there's certain parts of capitalism that like just make sense to me, that like makes sense. But like there's certain parts, like if a privatized prison system can exist, and like let's say if people aren't going into that prison, right, well, then and you have to close it down, right, people will freak out about it being closed down. That should be a fucking good thing.
That means people aren't committing crimes. You're living in a better world because people aren't getting arrested.
I think whenever you make an organization to fight something, it's like doomed to become corrupt. Like look at like the DEA. Like, you have an organization here that's meant to fight the war on drugs, but it's like, what happens if they win the war on drugs? Then there's no more DEA, which so like why they don't want that to happen. So it's like there's a lot of jobs right there. So I don't know. Think what you want of that, but anyways.
So you said that prison is in a lot of ways better than what most people think, and also worse. What do you mean by that?
It's extremely freaking boring, but like I think a lot of that's a mind state. So it's like, for me, prison wasn't bad.
Okay.
Because I hold myself in a way where it's like people aren't gonna mess with me, and like I said, I have like
well, you have training and a background in protecting yourself too. Yeah, and
I have a confidence in that. Like that gives me an air about me where I can walk with my head high,
right,
and like people don't mess with me. And I'd go train out on the yard, and most of the time I got respect for like people seeing me train. Like people want to, they want to see that. They want to like learn more about it. But I could train myself, but guards would only have an issue if I trained other people, so I couldn't train other people.
Oh.
And
afraid of a revolt.
Deciding a riot.
You're building up an army.
But
can't have these inmates learning how to do triangles, dude.
Oh shit. But
he knows a Kimura now. Shoot him.
All right, let's talk about how like society is in prison. So like the structure is like it is animal kingdom in there. It's like it's a jungle. So it's respect is more equivalent to reverence, which is more of like fear based.
Okay. So
you're respected pretty much based on how much you can handle yourself. So like if you have the ability to like instill fear in somebody, then those people respect you. That's how it works there. And like if they don't have any kind of that respect for you, then they're gonna walk all over you. So there's a lot of people that it's really just exploiting the weak. And there's a lot of weak people in prison.
Right.
There's people that I know that are in holes that are like, you know, you can say anyone can change, but there's people that I know that are fucked because I know they're not going to want to change. And that's where all it needs to be. It's people that need to want to change. And like I know enough people that go in and out of prison, you know, they have a K letter. I've seen people with a K letter, which means, okay, in prison you got a letter for every time you go to prison. So I was a 0. Then you get an A, then a B, then a C.
Okay.
And then
K?
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
that means
God.
you've gone to prison that many times, and you have to go to prison for at least. I mean, you have to be sentenced to over a year to go to prison.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, it's just county time.
So that's at least 11 years.
Yeah, at least.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. So I'm like, what the heck? What makes you want to come back to prison this many times?
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely institutionalization, and people. It's the hardest thing about getting out of prison is getting out of that, because even for myself, I went through this big dissociation when I got out, where it's like I was afraid to leave the house. Like I was afraid to like stick out or walk down the street, because you don't have any choices in prison. You don't get to choose what to wear. You're wearing the same clothes every single day. You go to meals every single time, every single day. You're told exactly what to do every single day. So to have people get out and have all these choices around them and expect them to make the right choices is kind of tough. But you know, bad things didn't really happen to me in prison. Like there's some things that, you know, I've dealt with controversy and sure, but it's hard to watch other things happen and knowing that you can't really do shit to stop it. Like there's people that get exploited, and I've seen really bad stuff. I've seen like real malicious people when like it's hard to really know what kind of evil is out there until you actually see it. And it's like, you know, I've seen someone like be held down in their bed and have their face ripped off with a razor.
Oh my God.
It's like, it's crazy shit. Like, and that's like 5 beds down, because it's not like when you think, oh, it's not cells. It's I'm in a room with 70 other people, beds lined up. That's
right.
That's where.
Oh
I live.
wow.
Yeah. So.
That's insane.
Yep. And then there's, you know, plenty of people doing stuff for money, like whether it's sexual or whatever else, and being exploited because of that, or like I said, gambling.
No, you said for money. Like, do you guys like what kind of currency are you using in there? Like,
most of the time it's commissary, so it's like people like literally gamble with soups and like
right.
Yeah, so it's like a whole bunch of ramen soup, but like you can get a lot of other stuff too. You know, soda, like, you know, tuna fish and all kinds of.
So
know,
like that,
much.
like the cigarettes thing.
Yeah.
That like you see in fucking movies is more like, it's kind of like more representative of like the kind of things that like the finer things that you kind of enjoy while you're in prison, like soup.
Anything can be
Coffee.
a delicacy. Yeah.
Coffee is like one of the biggest commodities. For
right.
People. Like,
wow.
People are like super addicted to coffee and like they go crazy over coffee. But in prison, there's a lot of drugs, and people do spice.
Okay.
Remember, like K2, and then like. But what they do is like when they get it in there, or people that get in there, I guess they spray it with Raid and oven cleaner and shit like that.
Holy shit!
And it makes people like. You think about a bug that, you know, you spray with Raid, it runs into the wall and it goes crazy. People pretty much go into seizures, or like they go into blackouts where they do crazy shit. And it's like, wow, the people things do to get fucked up in this place. It's nuts.
That's crazy.
And then you get excited about that. I'm like, man, what's wrong with these people? But I don't know, it's a sad place. But like for myself, like it was almost like a spiritual retreat, which is almost like part of what I'm doing now, but on my own terms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You mentioned like prison reform. Is there a part of you that like sees a link between, you know, what you can be in fighting and like giving a voice to stuff like that?
Oh, for sure. Like, I wanted to give like I said, more insight into that, so people make people care more, and like use myself as a testimony to, like, you know, I feel like me being transparent about going to prison, like I'm not a bad person. So it's like most people that know me, like they get it. So it's not like, you know, you gotta understand that people that go to prison are people too, and you can say like sure they deserve to be there, and a lot of times they do, but at the same time, that what created them and like what, you know, traumatic experiences have they gone to put them in that state of mind.
And like, do they have the resources to get the help that people like that need?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
So you spent 6 months in prison.
Well, I spent 6 months in county jail.
Uh-huh.
Then I was free for 5 months out on bond.
Okay.
And then I went pretty much for 21 and a half months.
For another 21
So
and a half
almost
months
another
after
2
that.
years after that.
Yeah.
Jesus, man.
Just about 2 years.
And that was, you got out about a year ago, you said?
Yeah, well, December 20th last year.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
So what have you been doing since then?
Well, straight after that, I was having a friend of mine down in Boca handle my finances, and I still had like $1,500, and I went back to work, stocking drywall, and I saved a little bit of money for like a few weeks, and then I moved up to Orlando with my other friend Chris, and my friend Chris Jones, and he's the one that went on the trip with me.
Mm-hmm.
But
I know Chris Jones
then I lived
from
in Orlando.
like,
Then I lived
middle
in Orlando
school
again, but it was
I think he also went to JD Parker for a little bit.
Yeah.
Elementary school. I'm not positive. It's been a long time, but I know Chris Jones and his brother.
Yeah. Okay, so like getting out of prison, like that dissociation, like is weird just walking around outside, or like I'm like hyper aware and like super like self-conscious pretty much. Like I'm like thinking about, okay, is this normal? Is that normal? Like what the fuck is normal? It's almost like getting out of a fucking like trip. And it's like and also it's like anxiety about like, I'm watching the doors, I'm watching behind me, like who's walking here, who's
Oh
walking
wow,
there.
yeah.
So it's like that level of danger is still present to me, and it's like it took about a month and a half to integrate back into like a normal sense of like self, I guess. Like even like I said, like right now I'm going through a transitions period where it's like, so I have almost the same anxiety where it's like walking down the street and the dynamic is a little different, so like I have a little bit of anxiety just like around my surroundings, so I get brought back to that sometimes. Whereas like normally I'm not a person that has anxiety. Like I don't have issues about anything really.
Yeah.
I'm mostly pretty freaking chill. Like I don't really have issues with anything.
Do you feel like there was like identity issues? Because like you were talking about like very practical things as far as just like walking down the street once you got out of prison. Like, was there like any part of you that like sort of like lost like who you were? Like that changed in any way?
Oh, for sure, but not lost. If anything, when I was in jail and when I was in prison and like even a little bit before, like I was more of a finding my identity, which is like I feel like too many people today are concerned with identity, and for me, identity is more about like my identity is more about non-identity. People are finding more things to identify with, more things to label themselves with, and I think you need to have less. You don't need more things to identify with, because you can take all that stuff away and you're still you.
Exactly.
So when I was in prison, I was doing a lot of meditation. I was doing a lot of, exercise and like clearing my mind. And like, you're away from distractions. You don't have a cell phone. Like when I talk about boredom, you've never experienced boredom in your life, like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have that amount of alone time to yourself, and you get really acquainted with yourself, like your own thoughts, and like being able to observe your thoughts and observe who you are and your emotions and stuff like that. And it helped me deal with a lot of past trauma to develop myself. And I mean, when I was 25, I'd say I was still like integrating.
Pull a little bit that way. Yeah, we're just trying to get you. Yeah. Sorry.
When I was 25, I'd say I was like still integrating, but like by the time I'm 26, which was last March,
right?
I felt like I was pretty integrated. Like I was like in Orlando, I was living downtown. I was working, as a sous chef at a sushi restaurant down there. It was actually a lot of fun.
My dad was a sous chef for a bit.
I was having a ton of fun back there, and but I was starting to plan this trip and stuff like that because I knew it was one I wanted to do. I knew I had so much like character development while I was in prison that I felt like it was something that like I'm still starving for. Like I want to
really,
yeah. Cool. Something to think about with that is like, if you think about be, do, have, like you have to be able to do something in order to have something. Like sure, I want to have things, and I want to do things and have ambition and stuff like that. But I understand the root of all that is my being, and if I can create myself and rewire my brain and make those connections to do the things I want to do. Like even right now, like I said, putting myself in an uncomfortable position is gonna push me past those uncomfortable positions.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's like the internal cycle of like every story that you ever hear is like
it's like addicted to growth is pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, but like we both write a lot, and we're like very into like movies and fucking storytelling and shit like that. Like, Kyle is very much like he said a lot of times on this podcast about like how story is probably like one of the greatest things that you, in just human existence, right? Like it just is a really important thing for us to have. And I would say that's probably one of the predominant parts of it is growth and like one of the main things in fucking Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, like in storytelling is like basically just this idea of being able to go into an uncomfortable environment and returning with a boon, right? With something that, you know, has forced you to grow, you know, or reward, you know, and it's literally in a circle. It's a fucking cycle of constantly being able to put yourself into uncomfortable positions so that you can develop.
Yeah, get more depth.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I think a lot about like polarity too, and it's like the depths of like darkness I felt like when I was in prison and stuff, and like going to dark places and getting comfortable there. Like the deeper you go downward, I think the higher you can go upward.
Okay.
So it's like your level of perceiving is like, if you perceive really bad things, your ability to perceive good things is also true.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, it's just as, you know, you can't heal unless you feel pain.
And that's definitely like the fucking really positive way to look at it too.
Yeah, for sure.
To, you know, see some like really horrid shit and being like, okay, well, there's got to be an opposite side to this coin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about like wanting to help people, and I said as I develop myself, I want to prove that there's a lot of people in prison that are like, I can't change, I've always been this way. There's a lot of people with that mind state, or it's like, that's just the way I am. And
usually when you meet asshole people, they're like that too.
Yeah.
And like not even just like
just
people who've been to
I
prison, not just criminals, but like, you know, if you fucking meet a girl with
I just tell the truth.
Yeah, I'm a truth teller. Yeah, or you know, like fucking just assholes in general have like very static mind states.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's this book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
And, I've heard of that, yeah.
It's good. Like, one of the things they say in there is, like, you're not always to blame for your circumstances, right?
Right.
But you're always responsible. You're always responsible for the way you react.
Right.
So it's
it's the one thing you can control.
Yeah. So you can respond. So you are always responsible. So that's something I, you know, hold to myself, is that I'm always responsible for the way I act regardless of the circumstances.
Right.
So it's like something I'm pushing for now is, like I said, self-creation, and, you know, be able to rewire your brain to, you know, fix, you know, whatever addictions or vices, and, you know, move towards, you know, better moral values, and independence. Like, something I'm really focusing now, especially after Chris is gone, is complete independence and self-reliance.
Right.
So I'm still building myself up and, you know, gaining knowledge and skills and stuff, but there's times on this journey where it's like, I don't want to rely on money at all. You know what I mean? Which I've been going pretty, what's the word, like, on a budget pretty good.
Yeah.
Falling on a budget.
Yeah.
And like me and like Crystal, we were doing like a lot more of the fun things. Like, now it's like me doing more of the serious things, like more focusing more on self-reliance, being more disciplined, and you know, dialing everything in, because like it's a very serious world out there. Like, there's a lot of good people, but there's also bad people, and you know, things can happen out there.
You mentioned the trip a few times. Can you like elaborate on what you mean, like what you've been up to for this trip, this journey?
Okay, so starting last August 3rd, me and my friend Chris Jones, we drove up to Tennessee, and I've been playing this for for a few years, and a little more seriously over the past 8 months or so, and actually only convinced him to go with me like 2 months before we even left.
Wow.
Yeah, so like he like binge watched YouTube videos, and you know, got all his gear together like within like 2 months, and like a lot of like through hiking and whatever, like stuff like that. But anyways, we drove up to Tennessee. My brother lives in Tennessee, and we stayed there till the 7th. And, you know, we went hiking around there and stuff, and, you know, had fun. And then we flew from there, from Tennessee to SeaTac. And, like, my idea is to, you know, travel the West Coast on foot.
Where's SeaTac?
SeaTac is pretty much Seattle,
okay,
Washington, cool. Like between Seattle and Tacoma. But we hiked in Washington for like 3 weeks. We went into the Olympic Islands and then Olympic National Park, then to North Cascades National Park. Then we went like a good 200 miles on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Just
and
hiking?
That's like, yeah. And that,
wow.
And that's like, we went 3 days without seeing any people at all on trail. And we went a good, you know, 12 days without any kind of phone service, any kind of contact without the outside world. But you see on the Pacific Crest Trail, you see like quite a few hikers. You see like one at least every 30 minutes or so. But you're in the middle of nowhere. You're, you know, 30 miles from anything. And at least. So there's like this one little town called Stehekin that we saw after like 4 days. And this town has a population of 40 people.
Wow.
Nice.
They have one
less than my poli-sci class.
Yeah.
Yeah. And their economy is pretty much based off the hikers that come through there.
Right.
And there's one little restaurant, one little general store, no phone service. Like I said, I didn't have phone service for over 12 days. And no phone service, no ATMs, no Wi-Fi.
Wow.
They don't have any connection really to the outside world. All the food they bring there and everything they bring there, they bring from ferry.
Okay.
So like you can't drive into the place on the outside. So that's pretty cool. And then after that, we went another 7 days on Pacific Crest Trail, and that was literally over mountains every single day. Every day I had to freaking climb a mountain. And it was like, I'm getting sick of it. Like I wake up and like I'm looking at the map. I'm like, okay, I got to go climb this mountain.
There's another one.
And there's another one. And like, so we're going 20 to 25 miles every single day while I'm carrying a 40-pound pack and climbing a mountain every day.
Right.
Jeez.
So like, you know, that was a lot of fun, but at the same time, like it gets pretty old and like, like when you gotta wait and like you don't have a choice. It's not like, okay, I'm gonna quit now or go home.
Yeah, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like there's mountains that way and there's mountains this way. And you have to go like.
You gotta pick one.
Yeah, I can't just chill too long because I'm gonna run out of food.
Yeah.
So, you did this all the way from Tennessee?
I flew to
flew to Tennessee.
Yeah, to Washington.
Okay.
And I've been hiking all through Washington. Then when we got to this place called Stevens Pass, we, you know, hitched a ride out of there.
Wait, it's called Stevens Pass? Steve has a pass?
Yeah, Stevens Pass. It's his pass.
All right, good work, Steve.
No, what's funny is the town is called Skykomish, which is like a Native American thing. So like this guy named Steven is like, nah, this is like, that's not my pass. This is my pass.
God.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about this boredom thing that you were talking about with prison.
Well, yeah, because
Right?
I was thinking about that too. How does that relate to while you're hiking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, because you were talking about like sort of like going inward, like and sort of like learning more about yourself, and how you were kind of starved of that when you got out of prison, and you kind of wanted more of that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that boredom was like the main factor of that, like because you didn't have you know, a phone and fucking like you couldn't just sit down and watch
taking
Netflix
away
and
distractions. Like those 12 days when I was out on trail and like the 4 days I didn't see anybody besides my friend, it was really nice. And it's like it's a really like being on trail is very
4 days seems like a good sweet spot.
You're forced to be present. So like and be conscious. Like you have to make conscious decisions, and that's something I really want to focus on too, is making conscious decisions. Yeah. And what I mean by that is like every day you got to wake up, set up your camp. You got to make breakfast. You got to wash your clothes. You got to, you know, make food and so on and continue. And you have to do it. Otherwise, you know, you're not going to survive or, you know, shit's going to fuck up.
Yeah, you can't just go to McDonald's.
Yeah.
Like,
you can't just be like, I'm lazy. I'm just going to, you know,
I'll order Postmates.
Yeah. Or I'm just going to lay here. Like, no, you're going to freeze unless you, like, set up your tent and set up your stuff. And you have to go hang up your bear bag. And, like, another thing is, like, bears. And I've seen a couple bears and plenty of like elk and stuff like that out there.
A bear bag, is that something that you put up to distract bears? Like they go after that, or what is a bear bag?
It's just your food.
Oh,
So like
okay.
whatever the food you have in the bag, you have to go hang it up in a tree.
So they can't reach it?
Okay.
Yeah, so they can't reach it, and not just them, but like rodents or whatever else, and so that way they're not climbing into your tent with you. Have a bear coming through.
So how much total time did you spend on that trail?
We spent about not on that trail. That was about 2 weeks, but we spent about 3.5 weeks in Washington in general, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of hiking around.
Mm-hmm. How did you end up in Cali then?
Well, going from there, we went to Oregon, and Oregon was okay. Part of it was kind of a nightmare. Like it's like trying to deal with the buses, and Portland was like kind of gross and like, but
keep it weird.
Anyways, we went to the coast, and Oregon coast is beautiful.
Right.
So we hitched a little bit down the coast. We visited my other friend Patrick, who lives in Coos Bay. I saw my first West Coast sunset like on the beach. It was freaking beautiful, and like they have like crazy bluffs and stuff over there. And then we ended up hiking more down the coast, and we ended up in Crescent City, which is I think in California, the very, very north part. And then we went to the Redwoods.
Okay. Oh yeah.
The Redwoods were beautiful and awesome. We saw plenty of like giant elk, and like they looked like
saw all those monkeys from Planet of the Apes.
No, legit. One of the times we were there, I was like, we're sitting down and we're like eating dinner. I was looking up like, what would make this place cooler? Monkeys. Like I feel like I'm in Dinosaur Land because they did film part of like Jurassic Park, but like there's just these giant ferns and walls of ferns and like giant trees everywhere. I'm like, yeah,
need some monkeys.
We went on the beach there too, and like the beaches out here are something freaking crazy. Like and like not just South Cal, but like up in the north up there, it's like these desolate beaches where it's like these giant rock formations that are on there, and there's this fog that comes in. It's pretty creepy, but it was really cool. We had a big ass fire, but we went through we went kind of going down through the Redwoods, came out of it, and we got weed trimming jobs in Humboldt County for a week, and then that was fun. Humboldt County, if you haven't seen Murder Mountain, that's where that's from.
Murder Mountain?
Yeah,
never heard of it.
So it's like this thing in California, North California, where it's like the marijuana farming industry is so big, but people up there go missing all the time.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So it's like, and it's like this like little like hippie town. Like there's so many like little hippie towns and transients over there, but it's not like transients down here. It's not like a bunch of homeless people. It's just really, really weird people, and probably people that did too many hallucinogens and drugs.
Okay.
But the weed industry is really big up there. Like, and we got legal jobs. I found a staffing place that it's called Dark Staffing, and they hire people for the farms around there because it makes it easier for them to get workers and have clients and stuff like that. Because some of these farms are like in the middle of nowhere, and they don't have like that many advertisements or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they staff for them, and we're like, we're only past the day. We can only work for like 5 days, and they're like, that's fine. And it's funny because we met people around town. And they're like, oh, I've been trying to get a job there for like the past month since I've been here.
Oh wow.
And like, but you look at these people and like their teeth are disgusting, and like they don't take care of themselves. I'm like, well, I mean, we just walked here this morning and we got jobs.
Yeah.
we had an interview on the spot. Like we're carrying packs and stuff like that, and like definitely on the West Coast here, there's a stigma with that, like carrying like a full size pack.
Right.
And because like I said, there's a lot of transients, especially even out here on the West Coast. I wasn't even really expecting it. And then but we're wearing like gear like this, like polyester, and we have like honestly like the stuff in my pack is probably like $3,000 worth of gear.
Yeah.
So it's like there's certain people like especially after meeting them, you give the impression you can talk to them, you have some social skills, you're not like this crazy person.
Yeah, like there's a difference between there's a difference between a vagrant and a hiker.
Yeah.
Like, and
you can tell the difference like pretty quick. So like, we had interviews on the spot, and they wanted to hear our story like everyone else. So we were like travelers traveling through, and it's like I would have done those jobs for free. Like like farming weed is so easy, but it's just more for like the novelty of it. But we also made like $800.
So you said that you got in contact with the staffing company, and then you started working for these like weed farms. So like, what are you doing physically like for your job?
So they have a couple different like things they do. A lot of it is just trimming. So like you have the plant right, and then you have these big leaves, and you just tear off the leaves and you pass it to the next person, and the next person puts like the stalk through this little hole in a bucket.
Okay.
And they tear that through to get everything off the stalk, and then they send that through a machine that, you know, gets it just down to buds, and then they go dry it out.
Yeah, so it's just like a lot of like farming work and shit.
Yeah.
It's kind of monotonous.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
really like you do the same thing for, you know, 8 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
But what is ridiculous about it is like everyone that works there, like literally everyone, like gets high as fuck. Like they have a break every 2 hours, and like you see a guy in their car like ripping a dab after dab. Like, how is this guy doing this and going back to work? Like, and then like you're like, are they allowed to do this? And you're like, you see like the owner of the weed farm doing it.
Yeah. I mean, they got the perks of the industry, right?
Yeah. I'm like,
They don't give a shit.
Like, man, I know enough people. I know people back home that would love to. Like, I should like, man, why haven't they moved out here? It's really like a little paradise for them.
Mhm.
And like, you know, the pay's not bad. I mean, it's 15, but this is the thing: you work for like 8 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you get paid for 12,
Mm.
and you get paid for 8 hours regular time, and then 4 hours overtime every single day. That you work.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Why is that? Just because they care about their workers?
Yeah, it's incentive.
Yeah, well, good for you,
industry,
weed,
dude.
fucking
The
weed farms.
The industry's balling.
Damn.
Well, like the staffing industry, like they pay the extra hours are for like travel time. So
Oh,
it's,
okay.
like, they give you 2 hours travel time both ways.
Oh.
Okay.
So, and then they give you overtime every single day. But they give you overtime every single day, but they don't let you go over overtime in a week. So you can only work 3 days in a part day, unless you
Okay.
start working for a farm on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I showed him my social security card and filled out W-2 forms and everything. I got a
Mhm.
direct deposit.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that was so. Did you also get to LA from there? Just did you hike to here as well?
No, we're running short on time and money with not just money, but with my friend Chris,
Mhm.
because he only had 2 months total, and he had a flight out of Fresno the 24th. So we ended up going pretty much from a bus up there after hanging around there for like a week to San Francisco. Stayed in San Francisco for a day and a night, and then we came to LA, and now here we are.
There you
Mhm.
go.
Yep.
Nice. So you've been like with him for like the past like 2 months basically, and you were talking about how like you're sort of in this transition period as far as like trying to find your own independence.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It was kind of unexpected, but at the same time, I knew it was gonna happen. Like I knew I was gonna like have a little bit of anxiety and like transitioning, like finding like a routine again, and like being okay with it.
Mhm.
And like, you know me, like when I was in high school, I was like more of a loner anyway, so it was,
Right.
like, it was something I was kind of used to. But it's definitely. Like,
You were always super quiet.
Yeah.
I was worried about getting you on the podcast. I was like, oh man, I hope he's not as quiet as like every time that I gave you a ride home after wrestling practice. You know, fucking every time I tried to start a conversation, I was like, damn it, man. I really like Tyler. I know that he's a good dude.
Well, that was like about me, like, you know, pushing myself into
Mhm.
uncomfortable positions. And,
Yeah.
like that's one of the ways that like it's helped me change. Like I can just kind of get my mind around those things or whatever, and
Yeah.
do what I want.
So what's next?
Next, I'm probably gonna stick around here for a few days, and then I was thinking I want to go to Yosemite next, and I
Ooh,
might
cool.
go back up to Humboldt County again to like just to work there for a couple weeks
Mhm.
because money is kind of scarce. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, like I said, it's not about the money.
Right.
But if I go to Yosemite, I might go through either the north part of Nevada or come back south and go through the north part of Arizona and see the Grand Canyon and all that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then
It's pretty
I
fucking
want to
dope.
make my way towards Colorado because my friend Ray, he trains and works over there and lives over there. He's invited me to stay over there, and I really, really want to see Colorado.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the next big goal.
Is it getting over to Colorado?
Yeah. I kind of
Plus,
go
like,
down.
it's the right time of year to do that too.
Yeah,
It is
exactly.
winter. Yeah.
I was like, I'm thinking about winter. I'm like, all right,
You
you
gotta
gotta get
beat
there
yeah.
before we gotta
Yeah.
beat winter. And like, I wasn't expecting to come south this quick, especially with like I said, with my friend Chris, like just running short on time. So we ended up spending like almost a month in Washington, which was like, don't get me wrong, Washington was freaking great. It was probably the most beautiful place ever, especially for summertime. But and we did, most of our real hiking and out in the middle of nowhere trailblazing out there. But there's parts of California I wish I slowed down a little bit. I really like the vibe down here in LA, but at the same time I like a little more mountains up north.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not a huge fan of LA.
LA is its own cliche. Like,
yeah,
I'm like even being here, like, wow, it's like almost. There's parts of it that you don't see, like, but like there's when you hear it's almost like something out of a movie. Like it's LA.
yeah. And there's no sweet tea.
Only a few places.
I went to a
man.
diner.
Why do you
today,
think I go to Chick-fil-A so much? They've got sweet tea.
Yeah, it's like one of the only places that has fucking sweet tea.
McDonald's.
Well, yeah, McDonald's is another one.
Yeah.
And that's like legit. Like it's not even a joke. Fucking like McDonald's and Chick-fil-A are like the only places that have like
good sweet tea.
Yeah, good sweet tea. Like I went to a fucking diner this morning.
Yeah.
Fucking, I ordered sweet tea because they had it on the menu. I was like super surprised. I was like, and plus it was like it had like a Cracker Barrel kind of feel to it too.
Yeah.
And it was called the Black Bear Diner. And I was like,
sounds like a place with sweet tea to me.
I was like, yeah, and I saw it on the menu, and I was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna give myself some sweet tea. It came to the table and it was like peach tea.
Oh.
And I was like, all right,
Wow.
well,
Whatever.
yeah,
not what I wanted.
it's fine. I'm fine with peach tea. I don't mind peach tea.
It's not sweet tea.
It just wasn't sweet tea.
So I'm thinking about like, do I want to give myself a goal? I was like, or just go until I get bored. And I was like, I kind of had a goal in mind. I was thought about like, hey, maybe I'll just walk all the way back to Florida. And I think that'd be kind of cool. And I might do that.
Yeah, that would be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Over and back.
Yeah, walk
By yourself.
pretty
as
much
well.
from Washington to the other side of the country to Florida would be pretty sick to do.
Yeah, that would be like, or like an account. Or like if you're playing a video game, it's like you unlocked a reward thing. Like it's like, wow, you did that.
I did it. But now that I'm alone and I have time to like spend places, also, I want to like start traveling to more gyms and visiting them. And
Oh yeah, that's
like
cool.
I said, like actually building a network for that and have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
That way, because like I said with Chris, like I was like, it's always about getting where we get to one place, and then as soon as we get there, we pretty much got to figure out how we're gonna get to the next place and our time frame, and think we pretty much grabbing what we need to grab and going.
Yeah, and it's like you're in a constant transient state.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like I could pick a small town and I could go talk to the gym for a little bit and build a rapport and stick around for a couple days without worrying about.
And you can really
I
find
gotta
out
be
like
here.
what place where you want to like when you're ready to start training like full time again, where you want to be.
And that's another thing too. Like, big part of traveling for me now is like learning from gym owners, and because I eventually want to have my own gym when I'm like 35, 36.
Oh, yeah.
I want to start my own gym. So learning from them as businessmen, and there's a lot of different kind of gyms. There's a lot of gyms that are like catering more towards families. A lot of them are just a bunch of tough guys.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are really competition, professional based, but so like get a lot of different tastes, and like I want to give a little insight into that. Make it more comfortable for people to approach these gyms.
Right.
Because
it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah,
it can be
It's-
intimidating.
yeah, it can be
Especially
really.
like, and for me, like I have to remember like what's common sense for me and what's second nature for me is like completely different planet for some people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like us, we've been competing and like doing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like it almost feels normal, but for someone who's never even like had any kind of physical interaction with somebody, like,
Exactly.
to go in a room and dealing with grown men, especially like women and children and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I was hella nervous. Like every time I go to a new jiu-jitsu gym and I don't know anybody there, I get fucking hella nervous. And the first time that you walk through that door is always like it's a fucking battle almost. Like I think I might have more anxiety than you might. But like it is really tough. It can be really intimidating. And like that's someone who's come from a competitive sports background, like wrestling. Like I've fucking the people that already exist in that environment like are usually like my friends already. You know what I mean? Like fucking,
yeah, like the few times I've done it, it was with my dad. So my dad already like knew the people at the gym and everything.
And it's kind of funny because like me want to give insight, but like being in it for so long, like I know like most people in the sport are like some of the most laid back people I've ever met.
for sure.
And like the most goofy geeky or nerdy, like weird people.
Yeah.
They're like the same as in wrestling. It's just a bunch of weirdos. Like they're
Exactly.
cool. Like it's not like someone is like, like they're gonna like hurt you or nothing like that. And
yeah, I think that like jiu-jitsu gyms are usually a little bit more laid back than a lot of like wrestling and stuff.
Oh,
I don't know why that is. Like I think part of it is like because of the mentality of wrestling is a little bit different.
Well, I think even going for like boxing gyms and stuff would probably be like it attracts a more aggressive type of person. It's like somebody that wants to beat on something compared to someone who wants to learn a discipline like the way jiu-jitsu is.
And you've been in all three, right? You boxed before you wrestled, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like boxing was almost in the middle, but like wrestling, especially in high school, was a completely different.
Yeah, we also wrestled in
field.
high school, so it's like gonna be
It was like a
the ego there is going to be way more amplified.
Yeah, but you have different kind of rooms like that. Like for us in there, like we're being completely like super competitive with each other in the room, which is like what's the word, like that was like allowed. That was encouraged. It's encouraged to be competitive, like to beat on each other and like
I got fucking
pretty much
pissed in the room
beat
so
the
many
shit
times.
out of us, and then be okay with it afterwards. Which not always the case, but that's the whole idea. Whereas like in jiu-jitsu, like you have people coming from different mindsets, so it's not like when you go into the wrestling room that everyone's on the same page of being competitive with each other. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, you have to be more mindful of someone that might just be doing it for fun, or might just be doing
health and fitness. It's the box they checked.
check the box, and then so you have to act accordingly. So it's
and it can be kind of frustrating, especially if you're coming from that background as well. Like fucking the most recent, I went to a 10th Planet Fitness in San Diego.
Yeah.
And like they would just have their fucking like every time it was we were going live, fucking like they would do their little fucking 3 minutes or whatever, and we would roll.
Yeah.
And fucking like every single time, like without fail, like everybody that I would be grappling with, like when there was 15 seconds left on the clock, they would just kind of check out.
Yeah.
They're just like, all right, this is done. I'm like, motherfucker, like I want to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it can be hella frustrating. Like it's definitely like the wrestling like mindset is like a more assertive one, whereas like the jiu-jitsu is just like a lot more laid back and a lot more, but it's like still just as effective. Like,
So it makes it easier for a wrestler like to like say you have like a jiu-jitsu gym where they have the instructional class, and then afterwards they might have another class where it's like the competitors like just roll and stuff like that. And they don't allow
the beginners class and advanced class.
Yeah. So it's like in that class you should be more competitive, but like a lot of people don't make that transition, and it's easier for us to be competitive or put ourselves in those mind states, where you're gonna I'm trying to hurt you. Well, we're friends.
I might break your arm, so
But
tap.
Also just being like a higher level is like, for me, I'm a high enough level to where it's like I go against somebody that's a lower belt than me or lower skill level.
Right.
It's my responsibility.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To keep both of us safe. And if I go with someone, if I get hurt, it's my fault. If they get hurt, it's still my fault.
Right.
So it's like having that kind of control is definitely needed.
And that shit happens all the time. Like there's like plenty of times when there was a specific time when I was at 10th Planet and fucking somebody had a leg lock on me. You good?
Yeah, what do you call it?
But somebody had a leg lock on me, and they're like, "Hey, just to let you know, like 5 seconds ago, like if I twerked that a little bit more, your fucking ACL would have been done." Like,
oh my god.
And I was like, "Oh shit, thanks for letting me know." He was like, "Yeah, just don't fuck around too much. Just be careful.
Don't be a tough guy."
Yeah, and I don't think people are really like that aware of like how like mutual it is. Like you are like competing and you're sort of going at each other's throats, but it's also like it's something that we had, I think, fucking that most wrestlers have, like, and they always say like champions come in pairs, like that. We fucking heard that all the time with wrestling. But like usually the harder you go, the fucking better your partner is going to get.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a dance. It's a collaboration. Even though you're like are trying to destroy each other, you're creating something different.
Counts for a lot of sports too. I don't think that's just a combat sports thing. Like
Yeah.
if in football, like if you play offensive and defensive line, the harder you go against each other in practice, the better you're going to be. In basketball, if you're playing one-on-one with people, you're gonna get better.
Yeah.
So like iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I mean, but I feel with like jiu-jitsu and like, you know, you have these, like I said, if I started my own gym, obviously I wouldn't say I'd have pro classes, but I'd have like classes where, you know, these gyms is like a lot of these jiu-jitsu gyms is like the coach is like, okay, you can, things are voluntary, it's not mandatory. Where so it's like if I had my own school, I'd have those, you know, normal classes and stuff like that, but I would have separate classes that you sign up for, and you know, things are mandatory. You listen to me. You
Right.
know, it's not you can sit out if you want to type of thing. It's you can do it or leave.
Mhm.
It's like, you know, like in wrestling,
Mhm.
you know, you can quit if you want to.
Yeah.
So, I know that's something I would like to do. Just to keep everyone on the same mindset, and like you don't have to do those classes, obviously, but that's a long time from now, though. Still thinking about that.
Right. You're thinking like when you're like 35, you would start your
Yeah.
own gym. That'd be fucking dope.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Out in Denver, fucking
Maybe.
Colorado somewhere,
Colorado.
maybe.
Right by Cowboy Cerrone's.
I mean, I might go train somewhere for, like I said, well, I'm going to do a train somewhere first, but then, I don't know. I don't know where I want to chill out eventually or settle down.
Do you have
I thought-
aspirations of like fighting professionally still?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. That's
Yeah.
why I'm doing that when I'm like 35, 36, because
Mhm.
like, as soon as I settle down with this, which will probably be by the springtime, if not sooner, you know, I'm going to make a serious run in my professional career.
Mhm.
So,
That's cool. So it's just about finding like where you want your home to be to make that run, basically.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
And
it's
like
fucking
I feel
awesome.
like a lot of the sport like is a lot about wear and tear, and like how many, you know, fights. It's not so much about your age, but more about like your how many wars have you been in, and like
I mean, you see that like with Rory McDonald after the Robbie Lawler fight since then.
there's
Yeah.
fighters that are young, but they've been in so many fights that they can't their careers are over at a younger age just because of that. But there's fighters that, you know, they take less damage and stuff. They're, you know, 35 plus, you know, 40 years old, and
Yeah, there's like a difference
Yeah.
between your age and your fighting age.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say like prime time for fighters is probably 28.
You think so?
Yeah, it's probably your prime age.
Yeah.
Between 28 and 30 now, especially because, you know, there's so many disciplines to learn. You can get proficient at one pretty quickly, but to get proficient at all of them, like it takes time.
Yeah.
And not only proficient all of them, but then learning how to combine them all. That's like an entirely other discipline to learn, basically.
Like I said, like nowadays people are having their own styles. Like it's pretty cool to watch, like as the sport like grows and stuff like that. Like people are developing their own MMA styles, which is like before you almost had like, you know, style against style, and then there was like an MMA style, I felt like, and then I feel like a lot of stand up made a comeback and things got a little more authentic. Cause like you see a lot more people with like karate styles nowadays, or doing, you know, flashy stuff and, you know, kind of playing around with it.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, people are getting more acquainted with the rules. They're able to play around the rules a little bit because they know them.
Do you have examples of fighters that you like sort of molded your style off of?
I would say in the past I've emulated like a lot of like Dominic Cruz, Roy McDonald, Conor McGregor. Like he's the one that like, obviously, like I hate to be like a little cliche, like, or like following like a trend or bandwagoning, but like it was definitely something really cool to watch, like seeing someone focus so much more on you know, not just beating through everybody, but like using their intelligence and,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, Connor's like an underrated smart fighter.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting you say Dominic Cruz because how important you stress movement. Dominic's movement is super unique.
Like I watch his footwork all the time.
Yeah.
Me, like I'm not even like an orthodox fighter at all. Like I'm southpaw, but I also switch.
Yeah.
I'm a switch foot fighter, and like it's definitely been something I've taken a lot from that. And like you see a lot more often now, like with TJ Dillashaw, with the other dude that they fight in those. You know,
Cody Nolov?
Yeah.
Garbrandt?
Cody
Like,
Garbrandt?
they switch their stance all the time, and it's like it's fun to watch and like see how I can implement that to myself.
Yeah, I just wish you better, you know, injury luck than Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, how are your feet, dude? Fucking Doms are fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, this is fucking.
He's a great announcer, though.
Yeah, for sure. He's still got a fucking career.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's something like I said too, like me taking a break or me having to take a break. There's some of these fighters, man, they've taken breaks like 3 years just from an injury. Like, so I'm not too worried about that. Like, I still feel pretty fresh. My body's pretty fresh. I haven't taken huge hell of a beating, and like I do stress like being a smart fighter and training smart than just going hard all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that seems like kind of a newer mentality too. Is the idea like there's a lot of fighters who just don't spar anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's just they don't want to accumulate that. Like you were talking about, like being in wars, they just don't want to accumulate the
Damage.
hits over time. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I think a lot about that, and I don't even want to be the hardest worker in the room. Like a lot of people talk about that, like being the hardest worker in the room. Like, and like, don't get me wrong, like, I have a great work ethic, and like, I probably will work harder than most people in the room, but I'm more thinking about like, how can I improve, not just improve.
Yeah, it's not
I'm
just
I'm not gonna go be tough and work dumb
Yeah.
really hard. I'm gonna try to figure out ways.
You're not going to go 100 miles an hour doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. So me and my friend used to do this thing called like touch butt in the park, which is like I would go train, but we'd go to the park and like we'd play around and like I'd play with my movement and like my creativity, and like then I'd go back to the room and try to implement those things and see if they'd work. And
That's interesting.
yeah, and try to refine them a little bit. So it's like if you mimic somebody and you become the best emulator, then you're just the best at emulating something. But if you can't create your own thing unless you're willing to go beyond the rules.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was made,
Right.
based off Jiu-Jitsu. Someone had to like learn Jiu-Jitsu and then continue with their own ideas and their own thoughts.
But it also grew off of like limitations as well, right? Because like jiu-jitsu, like I mean, I forgot the guy's name, but fucking Papa Gracie, like he was a really small, frail man. Like I want to say that he had some type of condition that like didn't allow him to fucking like he wasn't strong, and he was like just very small. So like that limitation led to him developing like a really efficient art that didn't rely on you being super strong in order to physically manhandle people.
It's all about function and body mechanics, and so yeah, like that was the drive for him to create that. But like I said, he had to learn jiu-jitsu first.
Exactly.
He had to drive like, well, how can I make this better? So I think about that. How can I make myself better? How can I make this movement better? How can I be more efficient and take out so much wasted space and energy? And for me, it's just falling in love with the art like that.
Right.
And like I said, being more like putting myself to, when I do display it, like complete presence. So crafting and being super disciplined with my own art and being creative with it, but at the same time not having unnecessary movement and being efficient. So.
Well, dude, this has been fucking amazing. I'm really proud of you. I'm fucking glad that like you've gone through the really dark place, and you're still like looking forward to improving yourself, and I'm glad that someone that I care about is like it's seen that shit and just gone through it. You know
the
what I mean?
crucible. That idea of the crucible.
Yeah, and fucking. You still seem sane at least.
Oh, yeah. Still seem sane at least. I have enough people like Tyler, like, well, Chris, my other friend Chris, when we were like out in the middle of nowhere, he's like, yeah, this is enough for me, and I'm good. And I'm like, nah, not for me. And like we were with these other people, and we're like, and he's like, Tyler, isn't this crazy enough for you? I'm like, nah. Like we're out here in the middle of nowhere. There's bears. Like a bear could be in those trees. I'm like, yeah,
that's cool.
It's fine.
Like, and that's like, I mean, we're still on trails and stuff. I'm like, I want to get to a place eventually after I gain the skills and learn and build myself up to it. I want to be able to like do full on backcountry, like off trail, and like with a compass and like maybe some topography maps and stuff like that. Gathering food with like my own snares or
that's cool.
Fishing, but
yeah, that would be fucking crazy.
Yeah, and bow hunting too, because I used to go bow hunting with my ex's dad up in Arkansas, and that was a lot of fun. So I know how to clean, process, and cook most animals. So I want to get more into that and being a little more self-sustainable.
Yeah.
That's dope.
That and like, oh yeah, let's talk about like the food, like a whole bunch of processed food. We just had, like my rationing food. I have dry beans and dry rice.
Right.
That's like my rations. Like, and I have a bag of that can last probably like a month and a half, maybe 2 months, if I ration it right.
Jesus.
But so I have that and my multivitamins, and that's like my backup food. But besides that, it's ramen, it's mashed potatoes and oatmeal and a whole bunch of processed shit.
Shit that doesn't go bad while you're carrying
for
a month.
That and another thing to think about is water, especially down here, man. Like there's like no water to get around.
Right.
Whereas like in Washington, there's like a stream every like 5 minutes.
Right.
Like it's all like glacier water from the mountains. So, I carry about like 6 liters of water on me, full capacity.
Oh, wow.
And that's a gallon and a half.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, that's fun.
Well, I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
Fucking definitely very proud of you. So we normally, when we wrap up these guest episodes on our podcast, we ask everyone, if you were to give your 14-year-old self a piece of advice, what would you say to that person?
Probably to be like patient. Just be patient with yourself. Because like, I feel like when you're 14, you get like wrapped up in like expectations of, what you need to do. Like even like when I talk about like going to school and like going to college and stuff like that, like figuring out what you need to be, is like just be patient and like let yourself grow and focus on your being more instead of like what you have to do.
Uh-huh.
Like I said, like if you be it first, if you create your being, then all the other stuff's gonna come with it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really worried about my future because I know I got me. I know I can handle it, and I know I can grow anywhere I need to be. So I'm pretty confident in myself, and that's what I say. Just be patient. Like validate yourself through yourself. Like that's something I'm really big on, is self-validation, self-assurance. Like I'm sure through myself, like I know I can do the things. I know I'm competent. So, yeah.
That's great. Wanderlust Warrior, you said, it's in his blog?
Yeah, it's a blog. It's on Facebook. It's Wanderlust Warrior.
Cool.
Pretty cool. You'll see
we'll
my face
link
on
it.
Yeah, we'll put a
show
link in the
notes.
description. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, this has been super awesome, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to like get it together so quickly.
Yeah.
Like,
oh hey, I'm in LA.
I think that probably we're good.
Yeah,
this was awesome. All right, cool.
Cool.
We out, guys.
Peace.
We out. Stay weird.